What's up guys, James from Team HAAM here, and today I'm bringing you a very special deck profile for the premium format. One of my favorite decks of the Narukami clan, the Brawler archetype. So for those who used to play Vanguard back in the Legion era, or for those playing Vanguard 0 and happen to find this video, they already know what the Brawler archetype is. Basically, it's a Legion based deck that is able to attack multiple units on your opponent's board and just battle each one of them. So instead of actually just retiring by effect, you battle them. And it's a very fun archetype. I haven't seen that many deck profiles or that much on the YouTube regarding this deck, so I figured, I'll show you all my decks. That way maybe there are those who want to go from Vanguard 0 into the actual TCG and you want just a basis or somewhere to start with your deck. You'll have something to use as, like a starting point. We'll actually start off with the main grade 3 you want to ride first in the deck, which is the Tonics Drill Dragon. He is a gift marker giver right here. So as you saw at the beginning of the video, this deck does not generate its own actual Excel marker since this came out during the Legion era. So we have to ride something that gives us our marker if we want any. And out of all the playtesting I've been doing, I really like the Tonics Drill Dragon as the main 3 to try to ride first, because he has the restand ability of when he attacks, you can counterblast, bind one of your opponent's front row rear guards, and then you discard equal to the number of rear guards your opponent has, which if you're going first and you ride this guy, they usually have maybe 1, maybe 2, but most of the time when I would play with this deck, it's usually just 1 or less. So you at max discard 1, or if they were trying to rush you with that 1 extra card, it'd be the front row rear guard, so you would get rid of it and discard none. And by paying the discard cost, you get to restand with this guy at the end of the battle, and then he'll swing again with drive -1 but with +5, so he'll be swinging for 17. Very good Vanguard also to combine with one of the stripes we'll get into a little bit later. Everybody's favorite or controversial stripe for Narukami, Stunverse. So definitely I like this guy over all the other Narukami bosses we could choose, like Vowing Sword or maybe Gauntlet Buster or even Vanquisher. Those other bosses, they don't really work with this deck as well as the Tonics Drill does for what you're trying to do. With now the main grade 3 of the deck, which is the big boss himself, Brawler, Big Knuckle Buster. So I'll read off his effect in case for people who don't really know who this unit is. So he is a Act Vanguard. You counterblast 1, you choose a Big Knuckle card from your hand and put it into the soul. So either a copy of him or the other Big Bang. And by doing that, you put him into the soul. If this unit is in Legion, he'll get +5k and the ability to attack 4 units when he declares the attack. And a quick refresher for those who don't know what Legion is, you would return 4 cards from the drop zone back into your main deck, and then you search for the in text, the red right here, that unit from your deck, and they will both become your Vanguards. So move that. So it'll become, so this is the Legion mate right here. So these 2 would become your Vanguard, and they would both attack at the same time. So their powers would combine together and attack with his ability, attack the 4 units your opponent has. After we do this effect, his other ability is if you have the other Big Knuckle Dragon in your soul, he gets 2k power on both players' turns. So for the premium format, we like to be on what's called like force numbers, so 13k base. So you be on him with this in soul, you become a 13k base on your opponent's turn as well. So it's able to help guard against your opponent's units versus if you were at your 11k base right there. So this is the big guy, main grade 3 you want to be on after you first ride this and get your marker. So, and then to go with him, you need to run at least 2 copies of Big Knuckle Dragon. You do not want to ride this unit specifically. He is mainly in here just to put yourself at cross ride status with this and to trigger his ability. He is pretty much, he is a unit that's just set up for that. And if you do have to ride it, it's not a huge deal, but you're not going to get as much out of this deck or as much value as if you were on this guy, because he can't be 13k base on both players' turn, but he can. But if you're stuck on him, at least you can perform Legion, return the 4 cards, and get the Legion mate. So there is that as well. Then we're going into the grade 2. So as I was showing earlier, this is 2 copies of the Legion Mate Big Bang / Buster. So he gains the ability of when he attacks if your Vanguard is a Big Bang Knuckle, so one of the 2 3s I was showing earlier, he gets 2k, so he becomes 11 on his own. And then if your Vanguard with Big Bang Knuckle hits anything, and so remember the other guy's attacking 4 times, or attacking 4 units, if he hits all 4, he would get plus 3k for each hit. So that's 3, 6, 9, plus 12k to him. So plus his 2 from his first skill, plus the 12. He can be 23 on his own. With a 8k booster, he becomes 31. Or a 10k booster, he becomes 33. So by himself, he can hit pretty magical numbers. And unfortunately, I tried running more than 2 copies of this guy. It wasn't working out for me. If you want to try out 4, go right ahead. There's no reason why not to try it. And we'll follow up with 1 copy of this guy. So like I said earlier, the other grade 3, this is his Legion Mate, the Big Bang / Dragon. He has the same ability as the other grade 2, in that for every unit your Vanguard hits, he gets plus 3k. For each hit, he's mainly only in here in the event you're stuck on the other 3 and you have to perform Legion. At least you have the 1 mate that you can perform and search for the Legion. And if nothing else, he's also a big rear guard attacker once your Vanguard hits multiple units. So just run him as a 1-of. If you like him a lot, you want to try 2, 3, like I said with the other 3 too, go right ahead. So for other grade 2s to support the deck, I run 3 of the Desert Gunner Gauden. So Gauden is a promo that we got during the shop leagues of 2021. And he has a Vanguard rearguard ability that states on Van, at the end of your opponent's turn, if your opponent has 1 or less rearguards in the front, you can Soul Blast and draw. So he's making your opponent commit more units to the field, which is what this deck wants. And his other ability on rear is at the end of the battle, if the attack of your Vanguard hit this turn, you put him into Soul to draw a card. And the point of this deck is to swing at 4 units with the Legion. So if you hit just 1 unit that he attacked, you can do his skill at the end of his battle to put him into Soul to draw an extra card. He builds Soul, he's able to Soul Blast, which puts more cards in the drop zone for your Legion, and he's able to draw you extra cards as well. So definitely a card that I would run as a 3 of in the deck, or at least get some copies in here for you. Speaking of cards needed for the deck to draw, we also run 4 of the Eradicator Army Zuitan, or Supreme Army Eradicator Zuitan. This guy, he gains 5k for each card that's bound, for each rearguard that's bound on your opponent's turn. So if you combine him with the Stunverse, like say your opponent has a lot of rearguards, then he can get pretty beefy. But the main reason why he's in here is for the second ability of after he attacks a Vanguard, if your opponent has no front row rearguards, you can put him in the Soul to draw a card. So he's another draw card in this deck, and because this deck has the Big Bang ability to swing at multiple units, more than likely your opponent's not going to be guarding all their rear guards. If he is attacking these, they'll also most likely not have any front or rear guards if they get bound by this guy right here. So he's a free draw card going to Soul to draw. That's why I run him as a 4 of, just to add consistency to the deck and being able to draw more cards so I can have more shield in my hand, hopefully to survive my opponent's turn. So definitely this guy's a 4 of in my opinion for the deck. And then to add aggression, we run 2 of the Cho-Os right here, kind of the same reason as the Suitan. Your opponent's most likely not going to have rear guards. He is mainly your restander, so we mainly use him for the second skill. At the end of the battle, your Vanguard attacked. If your opponent has no front row rear guards, you can counterblast to restand him. There's really nothing that uses counterblast in this deck except for the grade 3s. So you'll have the extra spare counterblast to use for this guy. I tried running him as a 3 of. It didn't work as well as I was hoping for. It was really clunky, even with all the draw on the deck. So I've been running him as a 2 of, and it's been working very well for me as an extra attacker and pressure unit for the opponent. And we go down to the grade 1. So for consistency, we run 3 of the V-Era Mighty Bull Dragoons. Since your main 3 requires Big Bang Knuckles to put into Soul to get his effect, I try to run this guy to be able to search for those grade 3s, to be able to fulfill that cost. He can also search for the Tonics Drill. I was running him as a Flora, but I cut him out for another grade 1 in the deck that I've been liking a lot, but definitely no less than 3. He's the main grade 3 searcher in the deck, so definitely keep him as a 3 of. And then for another consistency card, we also run 2 of the Stealth Dragon Tinchestead from Overdress. So basically this guy is, at the end of the battle that the unit he boosted hits, you can counterblast, retire him, choose one of your vanguards, and you search for a copy of one of your vanguards. So he's able to directly search for a Big Bang Knuckle Dragon or a Buster, whichever one you have on your vanguard circle. Or if you feel like you need another grade 2 attacker, he can search for that as well, because since you're in Legion, you'll have 2 vanguards at the same time. He can choose one of them, retire himself, and then search for that copy. He also puts himself at the drop zone for the Legion requirement of returning 4 cards. So I've been liking it. He's one of the cards that I took out of Mighty Bolt 4 to try out, and he's been working for the most part. Hasn't been too bad. But if you don't want to run him, then you can take out one to definitely run a 4th one of this. And then you can take out the other one for another copy of the grade 1 Eradicator Demolition Dragon. So I've been really liking this card in this deck. He's a very solid pressure unit. He says at the end of the battle that he attacked or he boosted. If the attack hits, you can draw, and then you can also bind an opponent's card from the drop. If you do, and he's on Rear Goes the Soul. The main part is the on-hit skill. Since your Vanguard is going to be swinging on multiple units, and he is boosting, so he'll boost the Brawler. If the Brawler hits 4 units, he triggers for each hit. So you can draw 1 for each hit, and it's another source of a draw power card. So definitely, I recommend running this in your deck for Brawlers. And last but not least, to round up the grade 1s, we have 2 of the Idleson Eradicator Nosku. So he's an Eradicator searcher. On Vanguard Rearguard when placed, he searches top 5 for an Eradicator, add it to hand, and then you discard 1 if you added. He can search for your Eradicator Demolition Dragon. He can search for Zuiten. He can search for Cho-Oh. So it's a lot of filtering in the deck, a lot of searching you can do. And then once you add one, you can discard a card from your hand. So let's say you need to perform Legion, but you need 1 more card to put back in your deck. You can discard a trigger after you add the Eradicator and then Legion it back. So he has a very nice synergy with the Brawler Legion deck. I've also used this guy in multiple other Narukami decks. He's just a very solid filter card. You can also take out, like I said earlier, from the Tinchesteads, you can take out 1 for 1 of him, or you can take out the Tinchestead for another one of these, or another Mighty Bolt, depending how you want to do it. All up to you how you want to go about it. And then the last 2 grade 1 slots, we run 2 PGs of the grade 1 Anastasia. She really combos off well with the Stunverse, in that during the guard, if you're in Thunderstrike 4, so if your opponent has 4 cards bound, if she's retired from the Guardian Circle, you can draw a card. So mid-battle, you can guard with her, discard a card, then draw a card, potentially draw another defensive card, and the card you discarded could be part of your Legion cost on your next turn. So I recommend her as a 2-of for the Sentinel. Then we go to triggers. For heals, I run a 2-2 split, 2 of the Heal Guardian and 2 Sayobos. Now, the reason why I don't run 4 of this guy is because since I do run the Nosku Eradicator grade 1 searcher, I like to run 2 of these because it does have the Eradicator name. If I feel like I need to have a G-Guard ready to go for my opponent's next turn, I could potentially search her with it. But we still do run 2 of these because we're trying to get to our grade 3. We're trying to survive the opponent's early rush. So definitely 2-2 split's been working. And then we also run 6 front triggers. Now, for some people that might be, very curious as to why so many fronts. So besides powering up your full front row field, once you have your marker and everything, these also work with the Legion in that if you're in Legion state and you hit a front trigger, because the 2 legions are in the 2 units are in the Vanguard Circle or in the front row, they are both going to see plus 10k from the one front trigger. So if my Legion swings for 22, for example, and I hit a front, that Legion just became 42 because it's 10k for each. So that's why I run the 6 front triggers, trying to, you know, get that cheeky breakthrough. If my opponent says, okay, you need 2 triggers to pass, which usually that means 2 10k triggers. So if I hit the one front, I just gave my Vanguard plus 20 instead of 10 because I'm at Legion state. So I love catching people off guard with this. It's actually happened quite a number of times. A lot of my teammates and friends now know that if there's a Legion, to be careful that there might be fronts in the deck for any deck made in the future. So definitely been loving the 6 fronts. And the reason why we don't run more fronts than that is because we do need space for stride fodders. So we do run 3 crits that allow you to stride, to pay the cost of stride. So these have, for the most part, have been used for stride fodder. I rarely even check these with how much draw I do in the deck and what I'm returning. With Legion, I'm mainly returning the front triggers instead of the crits, but definitely do run them for the stride fodder cost. And for the remaining triggers, we run 2 Sentinel draw PGs, solid draw triggers. They also fill up the last 2 Sentinel spots. And then for the last trigger, we run the over trigger for Dragon Empire. I've tried running the Cray Elemental over trigger that gives 2 units 100 million. It hasn't really been giving me that much of great results, but this, however, has been giving me far better results. So definitely rather play this over the vanilla trigger for the over trigger. And then we run our little SP starter right here. Probably not the best starter in the world, but until Bushiroad makes a Brawler starter, I'm just gonna stick with this dude. And then lastly for the strides, I kept revealing him throughout the video. So this is the main stride that we use. It is Stun vs Dragon. For most people in the Vanguard community, they already know who this is. This is a very controversial stride. You either hate it or you love it. Basically, his ability is, on the Vanguard circle, you can Soul Blast, flip a G unit, he goes back to the G zone, and then you bind 4 of your opponent's rear guards, 4 of your opponent's drop, and then for every 4 cards bound, your opponent binds 1 from hand and you draw. Great resource for drawing. He also can attack the opponent's hand, but the main reason why I love him in this deck is for the reason he goes back to the G zone. So I can ride Big Bang Knuckle Buster, stride into this guy, do his effect, he goes back, I go back onto him, which allows me to perform my Legion during the main phase. So definitely combos well off when you put them together. And another reason why they combo off really well, as well as this guy can clear out units that don't have the resist, but the units that do have resist get around this guy if the opponent has any on the field. So what you'll do is you'll go into this, get rid of as many rear guards as possible. For all those that have resist and avoid him, they cannot avoid this guy. He'll Legion, he'll swing at them. The resist protects them from being chosen by my card effects, but his effect is not choosing them. His effect allows me to attack them, to battle them. So I get around the resist part. So that's why these two combo off really well together, I feel. And then that's for that. And then for the people who, again, played back then in G era and play in Vanguard Z era, because I know this guy just came out not too long ago on the English side. We run 4 copies of the Brawler Stride. You don't really need this guy. Like I said, the main stride you'll always be going into is this guy right here. But in those matchups where your opponent just has a bunch of resist units, you can go into this guy instead of having Legion. But his ability is once per turn on the Vanguard circle, you can counter my Soul Blast, and then you flip anything face up. If your heart card is a Big Bang Knuckle, which is your main 3, he gains the ability of that when he would attack. For every heart card you have, he gets to attack 3 units. So when you stride this guy, say over your Legion, this guy, and oh, not that guy, this guy. So what would happen is you would have this Legion right here, perform stride, he'll go over them. Technically he has 2 hearts. You choose the main heart being this guy to have his ability active, which by main heart meaning he gains his name and his stats. Then, since when he swings, he'll be checking that you have 2 hearts, which if you play the deck the way it's supposed to, you'll have 2 hearts, he'll be swinging at 6 units instead of the 4 with this guy. So that's how this interaction works. That's why I run this guy as a 4-up. He's a flip target for the stun verse. He'll always be the flip target. And again, in the event your opponent has any resist units, he can just swing at all of them because it's not his effect affecting them specifically. It's his effect giving him the ability to attack all of them. So there's that. Then we run the 1 VMAX right here. So this guy, he's just a cheeky way to try and steal the game. The main effect that you want to use with him is if you're at GB3, so if you already have 2 other face-up cards in the G zone, and then him, so it's 3. If your opponent has 5 cards bound, at the end of the battle he attacked. If your opponent has no rear guards, you can counterblast 2 to deal them a damage, regardless how much damage they have already. So he can steal a game with his own ability, and that's the main reason why he's in here. Then we have the GB8 guy right here, Closer Dragon. If in the event you make it that far in a game, he can retire both players' rear guards, and then he binds your opponent's entire drop zone, and your entire field gets 2k for every card bound. Just a very solid, huge beat stick if the game gets that far. And then we also run the 1 Progenitor Dragon, Gilgal. Free striding is nice. He also is a brawler in his own way because he swings as well at all your opponent's units and counter charges for each one. Not a necessity. If you can't get him, don't worry about it. But if you do have a copy of him and you want to use it, this deck is a great deck to use it in. And then for the G-Guards, we run the 1 Brahma. So you bind 2 from your drop, gets an extra 10k shield, helps out with this guy in that he's checking both players' bind zones, not just your opponent. So he can power him up a little bit. Then we also run the 2 Bull Rocks right here. This guy, he's a 10k shield if your opponent has 3 bound cards, and then at the end of the battle, this unit is placed on Guardian Circle. For every 4 cards your opponent has bound, you can retire a front row rested rear guard. Just mainly used for the 10k power up to his shields. The main G guard we have in the deck is the Impede, another solid staple for the Narukami clan. When placed on Guardian, you flip a G unit, a G Guardian face up, and then your opponent retires and binds 1 rear guard, and then if they have 2 more rear guards than you do, after resolving the bind, then you have to retire another rear guard. Very solid defense unit. And then the last slot, we give it to Rectum. So basically, discard a card from hand to draw a G-Guard. Can set up Legion for next turn. And yeah, that's mainly it. And that was my Brawler deck profile, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Like I said, it's a very fun deck. Is it the most competitive deck in the world? No, but you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it, especially if you enjoyed it in, say, Vanguard Zero, or if you liked the deck in the past. It's really solid right now. I've been playtesting it with a few of my teammates, a few of my friends, and the deck can surprisingly keep up with some other decks. Obviously, it loses to decks that's able to rush. It loses to decks that's able to just clear out your resources. It has a very hard time fighting those matchups, but the deck's a lot of fun. Do give it a try if you have all the cards. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. Please like and subscribe. And if you have any recommendations for the deck, if you have any questions at all, please reach out to me. I'm definitely here to answer all your questions. I love reading the comments and what you guys have to say. Thank you so much, guys. Y'all take care. Bye.